Hi, I just wanted to share some information I came across today about the use of ivermectin as it relates to treating COVID. So many of you have heard that ivermectin is an FDA-approved drug that has been used successfully in many, many countries to treat COVID early. It's having great results, but for some reason, we can't get it prescribed and used easily here. In fact, where I started to really study this out is I have a friend who has a family member in the ICU with COVID, and they have been asking for ivermectin to be used, and the hospitals have been refusing. And if you're watching the news, there's been several court cases that have now been won by families who had the same situation. They couldn't get ivermectin used, so they had to go to court, and the courts had to force the hospitals and the doctors to use it. So that's a real problem. So as I started to study it, here's kind of what I found. And before I go into that, let me just say this. When I say things kind of against the narrative or challenging or questioning what the CDC or someone is saying, a lot of people kind of paint me as, oh, you don't believe in COVID, or you don't believe it's real, or whatever. Listen, questioning the narrative does not mean that. I had COVID and it was serious. I mean, I wasn't in the hospital, but it definitely was stronger than any illness I had walked through. And I have lost people that I love very, very much to COVID. So that's what spurs me to do research, to question, because I don't think our agencies are getting this right. There's something wrong. There's been deceit at multiple levels. There's a lot of problems with how things have been handled. And I care enough about my family and my friends to challenge the narrative, because I believe that's how we get to solutions more quickly. And if other countries are having good results with something, we should have it on the table because lives are at stake. So I just wanted to say that. So I'm going to screen share and show you what I'm talking about. So this family is going into court today, and they're trying to get a court to approve the use of ivermectin. Okay. Now, so I started looking at some of the court cases where they were successful at getting ivermectin. And on the court case, they basically said that the CDC's position or the FDA's position is as follows. Okay. And if you read this, it's kind of BS, in my opinion. Okay. So what the CDC website says is there seems to be a growing interest in a drug called ivermectin to treat humans with COVID. Ivermectin is used in the US to treat or prevent parasites in animals. The FDA has received multiple reports of patients who have required medical support and been hospitalized after medicating with ivermectin intended for horses. Okay, so first and foremost, they keep saying it's dangerous, and this is why. Okay. And look at the language here. Okay. They've received multiple reports, not hundreds, not dozens, multiple, could be 3. Okay. And this is the language you want to look for, because it's usually just intended to look a certain way. Okay. They required medical support or they've been hospitalized, but there's been no deaths. Okay. And these are people that are self-medicating with ivermectin intended for horses, not the FDA approved ivermectin. So this alone should push the CDC and the FDA to approve ivermectin for COVID, because it would prevent people from having to go to the farm and get the stuff that they're using on horses. Okay. But even still, even in these overdoses, there's been no deaths. Okay. So it's really not that dangerous. You're always going to get somebody that's going to do something, but come on. Then they go on to say that it's FDA approved. Now, this is what ivermectin for humans is approved for. It's for some parasitic worms, and then you can topically use it on your skin for head lice and rosacea. So how really harmful is something if we're using it for lice and for rosacea? Okay. It says here taking large doses could be dangerous. Of course, we know that. Taking large doses of anything can be dangerous. And now they go on to say, if you have a prescription for ivermectin for an FDA approved use, get it from a legitimate source. Okay, so right there it says it's FDA approved. That's what we are trying to get in use. Okay. There's been studies all over the world. Like, for example, in India, as you know, had a huge explosive outbreak. Let me stop screen sharing for a sec here. Hold on. They had a huge, sorry, stop share. So they had a huge outbreak. Okay. They started using ivermectin in multiple counties, and the COVID cases dropped in some cases by 97%. In fact, you might have heard the story of there was one health minister that they felt had ties to the vaccine companies, and she publicly came out against ivermectin. So her county had 10 times the number of deaths. And now she's being brought up on criminal charges and may get the death sentence because they're holding her responsible for those added deaths. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with. You know, we're not above just a money grab and a power grab here. So let me go back to screen sharing here. And so I started looking and I said, you know what, for a year now, the FDA and the CDC has been saying they're going to look into ivermectin for COVID. Okay. So this is a study. I went over to the CDC's website, and you can do this, and you can actually see all the studies being done. Okay. So I put in COVID and ivermectin. And as you can see here, 75 studies being done. Okay. As you scroll through them over here, you'll see that they're all being done in other countries. Okay. The only ones being done in the United States are this one in Pennsylvania, which, hold on, let me find that. Sorry. There's one in Pennsylvania that was being done. Okay, here's one in Sarasota. Okay. As you can see, number 17, they're still recruiting. Okay. So they haven't even started the study. They're just recruiting still. Okay. Then here's the Pennsylvania one, number 4, withdrawn. So we have no studies that we are currently doing, the FDA or the CDC, as according to their website, on ivermectin. And they said that they'd look into it a year ago. But you know what? Now they can continue to say, well, there's no evidence. Read what they say. There's no evidence that ivermectin works with COVID. Well, of course, there's no evidence if you're not willing to do a study. How are you going to get evidence if you don't look at it? Now, meanwhile, countries all over are using it. They've got studies. There's been multiple private studies been done, and it's all effective. So they're all proving that this is an effective treatment. And the fact that we have to go to court just to get a doctor to administer something that's FDA approved for rosacea, for Pete's sakes, is ridiculous. So I just wanted to share this, and I just feel like we have to question, we have to push, we have to fight. And I'll tell you, if you get a family member in the ICU, you know, do what you got to do to fight to get ivermectin or hydrochloroquine or something in their system. And one of the ways you could do that is if you go to American Frontline Doctors, they will do it, have a doctor get on the phone with you, and then they can have a pharmacy mail you ivermectin or hydrochloroquine. So I feel like, look, we're on our own. Our agencies have failed us. We need to start stepping up and doing what we can do to stay healthy. So God bless. Stay well.